Hello YouTubers, welcome to Kurt's Kitchen. If you are liking the recipes, please follow me here on Kurt's Kitchen, hit like or subscribe, all those good things. Today we're going to be making chicken Alfredo, and if I'm in a pinch and don't have much time, I might just doctor up a jar of Alfredo sauce, pouring it into the pan, adding some melted butter and some of the spices, and doctoring it up the best I can. But today I'm going to make Alfredo sauce from scratch, and it's not that much more labor intensive. But that's just a quick fix if you're in a hurry or for the easy way out. But today we're going to make Alfredo sauce from scratch. We're going to begin. I've already cut the chicken. I put that in strips. These are about maybe a 1/4 inch to a 1/2 inch thick and about this size. So it's already sliced, ready to go the way I want to have it topped on the chicken Alfredo. We have a place called Zender's in Frankenmuth, Michigan, and I like every time I go to Frankenmuth to stock up on their great chicken seasoning. I'm going to be sprinkling this to give it a nice chicken flavor. If you don't have Zender's seasoning, you can order it from Zender's, and I believe they'll ship it by mail. If not, you can use a poultry seasoning. Just any poultry seasoning you can get from the store in the spice aisle. So I'm going to lightly sprinkle the Zender's seasoning back and forth on the chicken, so that would be about a tablespoon. We're going to use onion powder and sprinkle that over the chicken. And then we're going to use garlic powder and sprinkle that over the chicken. And then we're going to sprinkle a little bit of oregano and some basil. Over the chicken. Next thing we want to do is get a frying pan. I like to use a copper plated frying pan the best. And we're going to get that pretty coated with some vegetable oil or olive oil. If you are using olive oil, I'd recommend extra virgin olive oil. So in the spray bottle from the dollar store, we just fill it up with vegetable oil, and we can use it in our air fryer just to... So I put enough vegetable oil to coat the bottom evenly in the pan. Now I need to get that pan good and hot. Okay, so while that's warming up to our desired temperature, I can put in my water that I'm going to need for the noodles and get that boiling as well. I've already added the water, and I put in a pinch of salt to the water, covered it with the lid, and put it on high. I'm using the burner on the range that has a power boost, and it's already boiling, ready for the noodles. The noodles takes about 7 minutes, maybe a little bit longer if you're using fettuccine or linguine noodles, because they're a little bit thicker. So we'll definitely want to check on them in about 7 minutes. So we are in quarantine times, living in quarantine times, and we only have maybe a 1/4 box of fettuccine noodles in our cabinet, and they didn't have any at the store. So we're going to improvise, and we're going to be mixing a little bit of spaghetti noodles with our fettuccine noodles, but typically I would use a 1/2 box of fettuccine noodles. Okay, so once your water is to a rapid boil, we're going to break the noodles in half and drop them in. Get every last one. And then we're going to do the same thing with our spaghetti noodles. Break them in half. Leave the lid off, let that come back to a boil. Our oil is good and hot, so we're going to place these in. Alright, so now we're going to let those cook halfway through. Don't flip them until they're cooked halfway through. That's the key with cooking all your meats, really, is to let it cook halfway through. Once you can see that on the side, then it's time to flip and give that nice good one flip, and then we'll let the other side cook. And since we were playing with chicken, it's time to sanitize. Make sure that we don't have any salmonella on our spices before we put them away and use them again. I'm using a little bit of Dawn and just a teensy bit of bleach water here and a paper towel. And then towel them dry because we don't have any disinfectant wipes. No matter what you do in quarantine life, they're nowhere to be found. No matter what you do, no matter where you go. Alright, I'm going to take a little peek. Yeah, just a little bit longer on that. Give this a flip. Alright, so the chicken is nearly ready to flip. You can see that it's turning more white around the edges and at the top. So I'm going to go ahead and flip them over one time with the spatula. And then it has that nice brown glaze to it from the oil. And this little guy in the middle was stubborn, so yeah, flip him. Chicken tenders have been flipped. We're going to let that other side grill. Now the pan back here, we're going to turn on and get that nice and warm. We're going to make our Alfredo sauce. So Alfredo sauce needs 1 stick of butter. That's 8 tablespoons of butter. Unwrap it, drop it in the hot pan, let it melt. Sure there's no paper on there. Put it right there in the middle, the hottest part of the pan, so it melts faster. The butter is melting and we're waiting for the chicken to cook. We're gonna move the noodles around, make sure they don't get too attached to the pan at the bottom and to each other. Especially since I had to use a couple different types of noodles in this quarantine life. Still waiting for the butter stick to melt. The chicken is all the way cooked through. That didn't take long at all. Let's see, it's all nice and white and it's not pink at all. We don't want it to dry out, but I want to cook it just a little bit longer to Make sure it's got that nice brown on the other side as well. I'm gonna shut that pan off just momentarily because it will continue to cook in the pan, especially copper pans and iron pans, iron skillets. All right, so the butter has melted through. I'm going to shut off the chicken, switch the pans. So I have the one that I want to work with right now, right close to me. As soon as that butter melts, you gotta hurry up and get your flour. You're gonna put the equivalent flour to the butter. So that's 8 tablespoons of flour. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then we need a half a cup of Parmesan cheese. We got a half a cup of that. And now we're going to use our whisk and break down some of those larger clumps of Parmesan. Whisk it together so that you have buttery clumps of flour and Parmesan cheese. Okay, it doesn't take long, and now it's time for milk. Now we're going to put in 1 cup at a time. It'll end up being about 3 cups. You gotta get 1 cup in there right away so that it doesn't scorch. You don't want brown gravy with Parmesan cheese in it. You want to keep it white. Okay, then you gotta hurry up and whisk, 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 whisk. Ah! Sliding that to me. Okay, we're ready for that other milk already. Okay, another cup. And then you have another cup ready to go. Set that gallon aside. Start whisking this cup in. Try to get rid of the lumps. Add in that other cup. So now I put in 3 cups of milk. And this is whole milk. Whole milk works best. Whisking really fast. It's nice and smooth. Turn down your heat because it's already at that consistency that we want. I'm going to turn that down to low. Okay, so it's nice and smooth. That gives me a time, my hand, an arm, a moment to take a break and come over here and make sure that these noodles are not sticking. I need 1 teaspoon of garlic, real minced garlic in the jar. Another teaspoon. 2 teaspoons. Mix that in. Make sure that's mixed in really, really well. Get that in there where it's still nice and hot. Okay, next. You don't have to, this is an optional ingredient, but we actually have some shredded Parmesan cheese. And since we have that, I'm going to put in about 1/3 to a half a cup of that and let that melt in. If you don't have it, it still tastes just as good. Whisk that in. Next, we're going to add some parsley. And for the parsley, we're going to go with about a half a teaspoon to a teaspoon. about a quarter of a teaspoon of basil, and about a quarter of a teaspoon of oregano. And then I'm going to add just another maybe tablespoon of garlic powder. Whisk that in. Parsley, give it a nice green color to it. Flakes of green. Last, I've already diced up some tomatoes. This is about 1 cup. If you have a can of petite diced tomatoes in your pantry, you can open up that can and dump them in so you don't have to dice them yourself. That's another expeditious way if you need to. Now we're going to whisk in those tomatoes. And if you are doing the can, any of the juice that you can put in from the can just gives more flavor and gives it more of the right consistency that you're looking for. Okay, so then if you like to have your Alfredo sauce a little bit on the thicker side, this is just perfect. If you want it to be a little bit runnier, you could add just a little bit of milk. If you're not good at eyeballing, you might want to measure it out, tablespoons at a time, until you get the right desired consistency that you're looking for. Okay, so our sauce is done. I'm going to shut that off so it doesn't overcook and get too thick. Our chicken's done, and I'm pretty sure because we prioritized, I'm pretty sure that the noodles are going to be done. The only thing is we have 2 different types of noodles in here, so we have to check the thickest one, which is going to be fettuccine noodle, and see if that's done. I like to just taste it and find out if it's done. It is. It's perfect. Okay, so we're gonna pour in the noodles. While that's in the sink, turn on the cold water, step away from the sink, come back to the burner, place the pan on the burner, another stick of butter, and a knife, and cut off about 1/4 to 1/2. We're not on our diet right now, so we're gonna add 1/2 stick. Ooh. Let that melt in. The pan isn't quite hot enough, we're gonna turn that on just to melt the butter. While that's melting, come back over here with your sprayer and make sure that these noodles are nice and cold. You could add some ice cubes from the refrigerator or crushed ice to it. This is why we making the noodles cold. Don't you want them hot? Why you're adding ice to them to cool them off, or cold water? We don't want our noodles to stay stuck together. So this is a way to unstick them so they're not stuck like glue. Uh-oh, we're stuck like you. You and me, baby, we're stuck like glue. Alright, so we don't want that. Once your hand starts getting cold from flipping the noodles and you start feeling the noodles cold, you know that they're pretty good. So now we gotta switch that over. We gotta get the water nice and hot. Still melting. Get the water nice and hot, like a hot tub. So we just froze our noodles, made them all cold. Now we're going to put them in a hot tub and spray them with the hottest water you possibly can. Get them all nice and warm again. And they say, thank you. Okay, noodles are nice and warm. We're gonna let them, give them a few shakes. Gonna shake, rattle, and roll. Okay, let them sit in the sink while we check the butter. The butter is melted through. We need to turn that off. We're gonna bring our noodles over. We're gonna drop our noodles in, get them saturated with that melted butter. This will help them so they don't stick and give them an amazing flavor. Okay, add in the rest of the noodles. If you get a little bit of water in there, that's okay. The pan's nice and hot. It's gonna just evaporate right away. Keep giving them a nice good toss until they all meet with that butter. Okay, one last thing. We're going to add in about a tablespoon of parsley to the noodles. And mix that up in there. Trying to get as evenly as we can. Decorates it nicely, that parsley does. And now we're going to add a little bit of Parmesan cheese directly to the noodles. Mix it in. Flip, flip, flip. A little more Parmesan cheese. Just let it all coated nicely. Mix it in. Flip, flip, flip. Mix, 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 and it's done. Okay, so our Parmesan cheese still looks like it's the nice consistency we want to see on top. One optional ingredient that we could add to this is broccoli. You could just pop some broccoli in the microwave and warm it up, steam it, and have that ready to go, drain it and add it in. I like to keep everything separate instead of mixing it together because some folks may like to have broccoli in it, some may not, some may want chicken, some may not. So now it's time to make our plates. We use the plate bowls like crazy, so we're gonna add our desired amount of noodles. I'm hungry. It's been a long day. Grab a ladle and add my desired amount of Alfredo sauce. And now my chicken. So the last thing I'm going to do is add, and this can be done at the table with your table salt, add some salt on the Alfredo sauce and on the chicken. That again is a personal preference. If you want to chicken, tomato, noodle, potato. It's good. Perfecto. Thank you for joining me with my chicken Alfredo recipe. I hope you enjoy it.